morning, video games. Welcome to Filthy Casuals, a podcast about video games hosted by three very kind and extremely knowledgeable boys. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Tommy Daslow, and joining me, as always,
Ben Vanel here for our Game of the Year Part 2 extravaganza. It's the best of the best.
The tip of the top.
Me, Adam, and Tommy.
Yep.
I'm Adam Knox, one of the top 5 gamers of the year.
This is actually our Game of the Year episode. We told a bit of a
Yes.
porky last year.
Yes.
We'd said it was our Game of the Year episode, and then we talked about all this stuff that there's other stuff that we like more than that stuff.
Yeah.
Last week.
Last week.
Right. I loved all of those games we talked about last week.
Me too.
But
there's others I love more.
every
Yeah.
parent's got a favourite child. And I'm willing to tell you, it ain't you.
I've got 10 children. And only
know.
half of them are what I would consider to be top 5 material.
Once you get to 10, I'm like, I didn't really spend enough time with this kid.
Yeah.
I think I would like the kid more. Seems good.
I gather my children up and I say, I'm going to tell you the 5 of you that I like a fair bit, and then I'm going to make you all wait a week, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you the rest.
Father of the Year award is going to be presented today as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to any of us. We'll be bringing in a guest, obviously.
Not many dad-based games in my top 5.
No.
There have been some dad-based games in previous years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Last of Us, a famous sort of a dad-type game.
Yeah.
God of War.
God of War,
Oh,
that's a dad-type game,
huge
absolutely.
dad game, yeah. Octodad.
Yep.
That's very much a dad-type game.
Yeah.
Daddy dating sim, whatever that one was called,
yeah,
Dream
that's
Daddy.
right.
Dream Daddy.
Yep, Dream
Yep.
Daddy, yep.
Although they weren't literally your dad.
They were people's dads.
Yeah.
But they weren't
That,
yours.
the Home Improvement video game.
There was one?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the SNES, right?
On the SNES.
Like I
Fuck
don't know
yeah.
that it came out in 1992 or 4 or 3. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you've had a nice holiday so far, and I hope that you're ready for our favourite fucking games.
Yeah. When is this coming out? Do you remember?
Just before New Year's. It's
Okay.
I think it's like the 27th or something of December
Nice.
today.
I tell you
Alright.
what, best week of the year.
It's a good week.
I
Well,
love it.
there.
Favorite week of the year, honestly.
We're pre-recording a couple of these to, make sure the content stays beautiful and coming out every week.
Yep.
But we're having a little break now. What do you reckon you're doing right now?
Oh.
Well,
I might be at the movies, honestly.
Yep.
27th of December is a good movie going
Well, I think
day.
it's the 28th because Christmas is a Monday, so that's
Oh,
25th,
yeah.
6th, 7th, 8th.
Oh,
I'm at Barwon Heads. If you want to try and stalk me,
Oh,
Try.
okay.
I'm going to succeed.
Yeah.
I know
Small
well in
place.
advance.
yeah. If you're down there, if you live down there, keep an eye out. I'll be walking around.
Look for a little sunburnt man.
Yeah, look for a little bitch.
Yeah, carrying probably a portable gaming system.
Yes.
Down to the beach.
Yeah, look for the Nugget Game Boy.
Yes.
Yep.
And if you can spot that, look up a little, and the face may surprise you. I'm excited to talk about some of the best games that have ever come out. Came out
Yeah.
of this year.
Yeah. Yep.
There's at least a few of them, and they're likely to be in the top 5 of each
This
of
is
our.
going to be like one of those years where what's the other big one, like 98?
98, 2007.
07, yeah.
I think 2001 is a big. That was like Halo and.
Yep.
2017? I mean, that was like Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
At least.
Yep.
And yeah, whenever Red Dead 2 came out.
18. I think
Right.
that was a good year. You know what? There's always good games.
There's always
it's
good
one of the
games.
pleasures of talking about them is that you get to play them.
Yeah, honestly, there are more this year than we can fit into
Absolutely.
our discussions.
But these are the tip of the top of the top. If you've got some favorites, by the way, that poll is still going. It'll be going
Yes.
until we come back for our first step, which is the one after New Year's. Next week, we'll do a 2024 preview.
yes.
But if you want to go vote on your favorite games of the year, you're able to do that. There'll be a link in the show notes
Yep.
that I've pointed down towards.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've got the link tattooed on my belly.
Well, I guess for YouTube, that's accurate, right? It is below the video.
Yeah.
And
Dude.
hey, why not watch it on YouTube?
You could if you want.
Yeah, you can see us here sitting on the couch or an office chair in Tommy's case.
Yeah. We know that most of you don't, but that's also fine.
It's an option.
Do what
Yeah.
you like, man. Do listen to things, watch things, read about it later in the news.
I've heard actually, this is kind of an urban legend.
Okay.
But if you play the audio of this episode and the video at the same time, they sync up.
Wow.
Wow.
God damn.
Yeah.
If you say filthy casuals 3 times in a mirror, one of us pops up behind you and goes, oh, not that good of a mirror.
Well, it has to be in front of a mirror that's in Bowen Heads on December the 28th. And I might be a chance of popping up near you. I'm going to spend all my time in the mirror shop down
Hell
there
yeah.
just to be safe.
Would be that like scene in a horror movie where someone's like got the medicine cabinet open, they close it and
Oh.
they suddenly see your reflection in the
God
rear.
damn.
Or walk in and be like, oh no, Tommy's behind me. You'd be like, am I? And there's 50 reflections of you in the mirror shop.
yeah,
How many
yeah.
injuries do you reckon happen in a mirror shop?
Oh,
Good question.
I reckon some.
Yeah.
A non-zero amount.
If you're getting injured in a mirror shop, if your shop is so dangerous that people are getting injured, you really should reflect on that behavior.
Well,
The year's over, but the joke's on.
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
probably
they
end
are.
up with like about 221 years bad luck as well.
Oh, God damn.
Staggering
If you
around,
broke it, yeah.
smashing shit down. So yeah, this week we'll talk about 5 to 1, and we'll talk about our honourable mentions that haven't come up already.
I've only got one more of them, and it's going to come up, I reckon. So
I've got so many.
there are games I played, but like, not all of them are honourable. Some of them are good, even, but
So I have genuinely like could have done happily done like a top 15, top 20.
I looked at Ben's phone and he's got 2023 in video games on Wikipedia open. That's
yeah,
his list.
Yeah.
That is what I used last night to do my research.
It's a useful
but-
resource.
but-
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about the top 5.
Yeah, let's dive back in. We're going TBA rules.
Yep.
TBA order. So, Thomas.
Are you ready?
Oh,
is
I'm
it.
ready, baby.
This is
Are
the
you
big
ready,
moment.
kids?
Yes. I've never seen the show. What show is it?
Number 5 on my Game of the Year list, and I'm pretty positive we're going to talk about it right now.
Yeah.
Pizza Tower.
That is my final honourable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Purely
okay.
because Pizza Tower has the best visuals of the year, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh.
I fucking loved the look of that game. I didn't play that much of it, but just looks-wise, hubba hubba.
Okay.
Yeah, the style of it too. Like I had just before it came out started replaying Wario Land 4, which it is. Yeah, mechanically it's doing a version of a Wario Land game, which there hasn't been a new one of in quite some time. But also the specific mechanic that is only in the 4th Wario Land, where you get to the end of the level, you hit like a goalpost, and then you have to make your way back through the level to the entrance. Some of the path has changed, so you go into new areas and you can't get into other areas. But yeah, I just loved this. Like, it was already riffing on a series of games that I really, really love, and it was doing so with such a unique visual style. It had such a great sense of humor, this really weird, funny, offbeat look to it, and just mechanically it felt great to play once you got your head around the mechanics. And it got a lot of attention for being a Wario clone, but it was also doing so much other stuff. It was like a great version of a Sonic game where it's more about speed than the Wario games is, and getting that momentum. And to get the best score in all of the levels, you need to basically not stop at any point. And so the levels are designed for you, if you are really good at it and know what you're doing, to be able to make it through the level without losing any momentum or wasting any time. And I feel like that's something that a lot of the times the Sonic games themselves don't even do very well. Like,
Right.
they are really, those levels are built where you'll get a loop-the-loop and a corkscrew bit, and then you'll just hit a wall for, it's always weird
Because
with
you
the
didn't
Sonic.
jump in the less than a millisecond you had.
Yeah.
Well, not less than
And
a
then-
millisecond. That would be insane. But quick.
But the levels are, in those games, tend to be designed in a way where you feel like, does this want me to be going as fast as I can, or does it want me to be stopping and exploring? And often it does want you to be doing both, with very little warning or indication of which one it's expecting you to do. But this felt like, not only the best version of the Wario Land principles, but of the Sonic principles as well. And it all came together so nicely. It had really interesting boss fights. So much replayability. Basically just one guy doing the whole damn thing by himself. Really one that just came out of nowhere. I'm surprised that it hasn't been announced yet for anything else that I know of.
It's PC only. at this
PC only
point?
still
Okay.
at this point. I don't think there's been any announcement about it coming to Switch or PlayStation or anything like that, which is, disappointing at this point, because I really think that it's a game that is, you could really see it being, getting a lot more attention once it's on something like the Switch, where like aesthetically it fits in so well alongside, the Switch library. I just loved this game. This was one of those ones that felt like someone has made something just for you that just appeals to like so much of the stuff you like in every different in all of its design and mechanics and visual style. Loved Pizza Tower.
It's so cool looking. It had the thing to me that, like, remember Cruelty Squad?
Yes.
It may be a strange comparison, but like how people are like, oh, I love how shitty it looks, but in a deliberate way. This was that, where it doesn't look shitty, but it's so deliberately yuck.
Yeah.
It's cool,
love
like,
that about it.
Ren and Stimpy, like weird French animation influence, but then also like designed in that sort of MS Paint sort of jagged look to it.
I think that's the Cruelty Squad part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
It just looks
It's
drawn
lo-fi.
quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sick. It looks really great. Didn't play that much of it though, but yeah, I agree with what you said about.
I
how
was
it plays.
between houses at the time, and I went back to my old house and moved my PC over to the new house just so that I could play a bit more Pizza Tower.
Bet you wish you had a pizza laptop instead of the Pizza Tower computer.
Pizza Steam Deck.
Oh,
Pizza piss.
steamed pizza, steamed it.
Yum.
Yeah.
Steamed
pizza.
Pizza.
Yeah.
Oh, it's chewy.
Cheese not melted yet.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was my experience of Pizza Tower. A little bit steamed. I didn't vibe with it
Was
at
it
all.
Completely steamed?
Yeah,
It's
fully
on
steamed.
steamed.
Yeah, but who cares? You loved it, and that is what we're here to celebrate.
That's what we're all about.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's every honourable, and of it we did 10 to 6 last week.
Yep.
So all I've got now are the big
the cream,
hitters.
the cream of the crop.
I'm all cream all the time.
Well, we're gonna do a little
I'm like
throwback.
a very sick cow.
Oh yeah, curdled.
Yeah.
We're going to do a little throwback to last week, and you can finally talk about the game that you had, I think, in at number 6, Knox.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Lies of P. Another one-guy effort, all done by Geppetto.
Yeah. Built the whole thing, but it really comes to life.
Yeah.
You actually had me on the hook there. What?
I had my guns loaded, ready to be like, it was a whole team.
It was a team of South Korean people. Yeah, Lies of P. As we did so, like, briefly touch on last week, but let's expand on it. It is the best From Software copy that's ever been made. It also has, I think it is a synthesis of like some of their best games, your Dark Souls 3s, your Bloodborns, but it had this great character to it, that gothic, dumbass fairy tale Pinocchio shit. It really, really works for some reason.
It's crazy that it does too. And the whole time I was playing it, I couldn't understand why I liked it.
Yeah.
Because on paper, I should find it so silly. And I kind of do, but in the most endearing way, where it's like, it's so aware of itself, and it's having so much grimy fun with it.
Like Stormzy.
Yeah. The Stormzy of video games, Lies of P, it's just so much. They understand what makes the games like Bloodborne work as well. That's what drives this game forward, is like there's a lot of different upgrade paths for all your different bits and pieces. You can swap out weapon handles and hilts. Well, that's the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The two parts of a weapon.
Yes, you can mix and match. And I mean, and yet still there are such tried and true and you could say ripped off mechanics of like find the upgrade stone number 1 and you upgrade your weapon to +1, and like that is in there because it works in other successful games.
And it's not in there just because it works in other games. They've figured out how to make it work for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's the thing. Even though it's so full of all that stuff, none of it is there because they didn't think about it. It's all thought through, and level design wise, they're getting up to matching that really great level design from all the Souls series. Vibe wise, like all of the weird kooky characters you meet, they have like cool, interesting things to say and do, and like disappear and pop up and do all of that soul stuff. The bosses, for the most part, are really fun and interesting to fight.
Yeah, a couple like one that I got frustrated at, like
Which one?
the King of Puppets.
Sure. For some reason, I fucked the King of Puppets up the first time.
I got to get more throwables or something. I think I got to it and was like, oh, I should have been collecting more shit. I spent all my stuff. I got to go back and grind a bit. And that may have been the reason, which is fair enough. It's not entirely the game's fault. But yeah, love the aesthetics. Love that like drawing in those like the animal sort of characters from the Pinocchio stories and turning them into these weird gothic gangs and stuff like that. It just works so well.
Totally. I love the like Black Rabbit gang or whatever they're called. The like goofy voice acting is correct.
Yep.
All of the like sides, like I explored every single bit of that game, and like all of the little side bits you can explore to get some prize you'll never use.
Yeah.
Really satisfying to do just because the combat is really honed and enjoyable and like pretty adaptable to whatever style you kind of want to go for. It's
Again, very Dark Souls-y. Like you choose the weapon and the attachment that you favor, and you can customize the gameplay to an extent.
I feel like I'm going to do a new game plus of that thing. There's DLC coming for it at some point, so I'll probably wait for that. And like it just really caught me in a way that none of the imitators have until Lies of P.
Yeah.
And it makes it go sort of beyond being an imitator, even though it is straight up and down wearing its influences on its forehead. It is like still somehow its own thing as a result.
Well, it's your guys' Pizza Tower, right? It's like this real golden era of like developers being able to go, all right, well, if you're not going to make another one of these, then we'll do it. But also like having enough of their own stylistic things to add in, where they're not just copying the setting and the tone and all that. Like they've got enough fresh stuff to bring to it, and also like you say, they fully deeply understand what makes that style of game fun to play.
Yes.
In a way that they can. Yeah, it almost is a bit of a shame with those things when they get to, like, the easy log line in is that it's this clone.
Yeah.
When it's not as easy as just, like, it's not easy to do. Even to just do a good version of it again is hard to do. It does take such a deep understanding.
And this is almost a clone in the same way that every From game has been a clone of Demon Souls.
Right.
All of that type of From game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's cleverly designed, really satisfying. It feels tight and like exactly the right difficulty for that type of game to me. I got more into the story aspect of it than I thought I would.
Same.
It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
it is. It's the second game on my top 10 list about robots rebelling. So that it's clearly a topic that I enjoy greatly.
It's got Hi-Fi Rush at
I don't
number
have
one.
another. It's just absolutely in the category of those games which are some of the best of all time.
Yeah. It's Bloodborne 2 as well. Like it is that sequel that people have been clamoring for, or even the 60 frames per second release.
Super impressive.
Yeah.
And really, really fun and worth digging into if you're a Souls fan.
Yeah.
Because
I'd go as far as to say it's my 5th favorite game of the year.
I'd say 6th.
Okay.
But you know what? 6 is 5.
It's really 5.
It's basically the same.
It's the same number.
However, great game. The real 5.
Yeah.
For me, I don't think we're going to talk about it right this moment, but I expect we will soon. We will. The 5th game of the best game of the year for me, Resident Evil 4 Remake.
Yeah. Yeah, soon.
We'll go deeper into it, but it's a good game. You know what? I will talk 2 weeks ago about the VR mode, I hope. I haven't had, because we're pre-recording this, I haven't had time to do the VR mode yet because that just came out.
The story structure of these episodes is quite innovative.
Yeah. They call it the memento of podcasts because you forget about what they said a minute and a half later. It's a good game. We'll explain soon.
Yeah. Thomas.
My number 4 game of the year, Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, I thought so. I had a feeling for some reason.
We'll talk about it soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good game.
Hey, I'm right there with you, buddy.
Adam, you want to get out of here?
Do you want to go talk about Resident Evil 4?
It won't be much longer, but my number 4 game of the year, I have a feeling, we'll talk about it soon.
Okay.
The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
We'll talk about it soon. It feels weird because we're going to talk about all of these today.
Yeah, exactly.
It just, again, the rule from last week, we talk about it whoever's the highest.
Yep.
And I'm fucking baked,
I'm
brother.
suited to the moon.
Yeah, cool.
Number 4 for you, Adam.
We'll talk about it soon. Number 4 for me. We'll talk about this now.
Okay.
It's Alan Wake 2.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
The closest to it. You gave a Vanilla Game of the Year named after you. This is the closest to my name
Basically
out of a name
Adam
this year.
Knox too, yeah.
Same number of letters, Alan, Adam.
Yeah.
Wake and Knox aren't the same. And
There's
I'm
a K
an
in both.
amazing writer, unlike Mr. Wake, who, man, okay. I really fucking enjoyed Alan Wake 2. The thing is so confident and like unique in a like exciting, fun way where it's doing something that I don't think always works, but is always with such conviction that it like delivers itself anyway, if that makes sense.
Sure, yeah.
The tone of it and the just reach that it's taken and then to me mostly pulled off is really engaging and cool. Like I loved the story of it. The fact that like Alan Wake is such a bad writer who's so up himself and full of ego that he creates this world of like that's all about him and it's goofy and silly. Like it that bit really works for me. Having Saga be this second character who has this different and I thought often more interesting story.
I definitely thought more interesting, yeah. I guess it's more real. Like Alan Wake's is so largely internal and metaphorical,
right?
Which can be interesting, but like you say, it's also very like self-indulgent within the context of him as a character.
He is that, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, whereas Saga, it's like it's both more real world based. And I like her as an actor better. Like there were a lot of things that just, were more engaging in that side of the story for me.
It totally works as two parallels of like thematically too, where he's all about himself all the time and she's all about fixing this stuff for other people's sake.
Right, yeah,
but
family and stuff, yeah.
Both of them kind of come to this head of, I really loved, and again, we're going to have some spoilers for some of these games. This is a spoiler for towards the end of Alan Wake 2. Sorry. But not sorry. I just
wow.
JK.
The way that it deals with like I guess self-confidence is like the cheesy way to say it, but like the way that it uses her mechanic to have her regain a sense of like purpose towards the end, it works super well. I thought that was so cool. That moment. And there's lots of little moments throughout where like it just is shooting to be something interesting, and that's just really fun to watch. It's trying so hard, but not in like a cheesy way. Like, well, it is, but you know what I mean. Like it's really given it its all the whole time in a way that a lot of games do not. Yeah, this has so much character and like passion put into it. You can tell. And that really worked for me. I think it plays great too.
Yeah.
It's pretty important for your number 4 favorite game of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's similar to Resident Evil 4 in some ways, where it's the same kind of like, it's a little more like sluggish or something, but like a shooter, survival horror.
Right,
type
exactly.
thing.
Because of the tension, it is you can't be a superhero.
Right.
You're not meant to be. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
and Resident Evil 4 is so much more of an action-y version of it, but this is a lot more of a like, oh fuck.
Yeah, more Silent Hill-ish or something.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It's funny how much it stands out when you play a game where a person moves like an actual person.
Right.
And how it's like, what the... This is like fucking walking through mud, and then you look at it and it's like, oh no, he's just walking.
Yeah.
That's what walking is.
Yeah. So this was 10 for me.
Yeah.
I think that I agree with all of that, except I do think that its reach out, what is it? Exceeds its grasp. I feel like sometimes it is just cheesy and corny and like not within its own context.
I don't even know if I disagree with that, but it was still charming to me throughout the whole thing. That's the thing where
I don't I understand that it's a matter of taste, and I don't think it's just like bad. It didn't fully grab me in the way that it has a lot of people. Like it was on multiple, like number 1 on multiple Game of the Year lists.
Yeah. It's one of the ones where I think we're in the realm here where all of these are perfectly...
Right.
Like, I fully understand having any of these next ones at 1. These are all kind of much of a muchness to me.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Most of my list is like, there's my number 1, and then pretty much everything from like 2 down to 6, I feel like the order could have changed around so much. Well, certainly like 5 to 2 for me is like
Right.
sort of almost just equal number 2. Like I liked all of these the same amount.
And like a lot of what this is doing, I like as much because it's doing it rather than necessarily caring if it super lands.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
absolutely. And that's, I think, yeah, like I was liking it less at the start, and the more it went on, I feel like the more I had to respect its ambition.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just more interesting than so many other games.
it's so like fully formed in a way. In terms of like it being a thing with a vision.
Yeah.
That is just fucking the same reason I go gaga over Kojima, because heaps of his shit is so stupid and I actively think is bad.
Right.
And I love it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like this like auteur level thing where like if the auteur ain't always getting it right, I love watching them miss that grab. You know?
Yeah.
All the like real life actor stuff, it kind of doesn't work, and it's great.
Yeah.
I loved having
Because it's unique. It's got a flavor that's like 100% its own.
yeah,
Right.
and I was just like happy to be there, even if like it just went beyond me analyzing if it worked for me necessarily, because it just made me enjoy all of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I really liked all the little side bits and stuff. I didn't even do all of them, but I kind of want to go through and play it again at some point. I loved all the tie-in with the controls world.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
And that's crazy that it managed to do a story about multi-dimensional stuff with tie-ins to another property from the same universe.
Yeah.
That does not feel like
shoehorned or like
because it's done right now sort of thing.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
feels intentional and is like exciting in the way of like, oh, there's the control people.
yeah.
Like that they would have done that anyway, not just like,
Yeah.
oh, this
Yeah.
is what big media properties do now, so we have to do it.
Totally. Just the audacity to have this whole like Finnish film play in this cinema that's like pretty stupid. But like I'm standing there going like, yeah, sick.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Sam Lake just putting himself in there. He's like, I look like Max Payne, but we can't use that name, so I'm Bobby Gunn, whatever he called himself. What is his name?
Alex Casey.
Alex Casey. Again, it's stupid.
Yeah.
He solves cases.
Yeah.
Alan
He's
Wake.
A-Wake.
A-Wake.
Yeah.
Saga Anderson.
Story.
Story Nordic.
Storyman.
Yeah.
It's great. All the weird stuff like Wall in Door.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Optimus Primal. Give it to me.
Yeah.
But like it plays so well the whole way through and like escalates and there's a couple of twists and stuff you sort of see coming, but I just really had like a good time. All the songs that play in between each chapter and stuff, pretty good, some of them. And just a silly, fun way to chop up your game.
Yeah.
I, if you can't tell, liked it. Alan Wake 2.
What was that? Your number 3?
Number
four?
4. We're up to 3.
Okay.
My number 3 game of the year. Super Mario Brothers Wonder.
That was my 7. We mentioned it last week.
Baby.
Now it's time to... what's the big version of mention? You know, talk
Highlight?
about it.
Expand.
But yeah, highlight, I guess,
Yeah. Discuss.
Go on.
Discuss. What a crazy game to not know anything about until a couple months
Like
before it
June
came out.
or something.
Yeah.
What a weird one to just be working on a new version of one of the oldest game franchise that exists,
Yeah.
and just last minute basically be like, by the way, this is coming out.
Yeah, we've done another of our main thing.
Yeah.
And
and it
yeah.
looks incredible.
And
Yeah.
it looks great. And again, it's coming out you're getting a game like this in a year of a console's lifespan where traditionally the lights are really starting to be flicked off and you know.
Not holding it over for the Switch 2 or whatever it's called next year, you know, good on them.
Yeah.
Chuck it out.
And so much interesting stuff about like hearing that I also really liked how they were a lot more they kind of spoke a lot more about the development of this game than Nintendo tend to do. They usually just kind of like put things out. They don't really ever do developer interviews or that kind of stuff too often, but like they had the director and the producer going around doing junkets and stuff and all those little tidbits about how they weren't given any kind of time frame for it. They just started working on it, and the directive from above was just like, just fuck around, just work on some stuff, and then we'll we'll date it when it's good to go. And I
Right.
mean that probably speaks to it ends up being sort of the perfect time for it to come out, because like what a cool little swan song for the Switch. But you can imagine best case, ideally you probably would have wanted it to be coming out, I don't know, 2 years ago, but just it
Right.
was such a lesson in these schedules of like these other media properties that are just on such a conveyor belt now, and things don't sort of properly get the time to cook. And having something like this that is so full of invention and interesting ideas, and just you really can tell that they just did have the time to do whatever they wanted and to get it to work how they wanted it to work. And especially in the shadow of Mario Maker 2 and people saying what do you do with a 2D Mario from here?
Right. Literally everyone in the world has been a developer potentially for Mario for nearly 10 years, for 8 years.
Yeah, and there was that guy that made his version of Mario Brothers 4 in it as like a downloadable thing that was great. Even just all the levels that Nintendo made for Mario Maker 2 in the single player of that was like the best 2D Mario that existed in such a long time. And so, obviously the answer is, well, mechanically you throw something in there that you can't replicate in any way in Mario Maker. And I just thought the visual style of it, and them really going back to Mario looking cartoony and sort of doing away with the style of New Super Mario Brothers, which so many people have talked about it. I'm in that camp too of it just was not to my personal taste. This is just not something that I thought that they really had in them. I thought they would focus all their creativity on the 3D Marios. Maybe they'd put a new Super Mario Brothers out every 5 years, but this just wasn't something I ever predicted them doing, and it was such a welcome surprise. It's just so much fun all the way through.
I agree. It's a spin in the other direction to what I kind of expected of, like, maybe we'll get a Super Mario Brothers 4 from them, go more retro, go more old-fashioned.
Pixel art style or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is, just a completely new thing that you're right about the creativity bit, and that's the best part of this game is that, like, literally every level pretty much is a new idea twice. Like you've got a good idea for the level, and then the one to seed is another idea on top of that, and it's constantly throwing just fresh stuff at you, so that like you're not doing the thing that the new Super Mario Brothers games felt to me, which is like we're platforming again and we're platforming again and we're platforming again.
Right.
We're running.
Same enemy types, same visual assets.
And visually, within the worlds of those games too, like you're in this world and all the levels kind of look the same. Even in this one, even though you'd have that aesthetic of we're in the mines or whatever, each level still had its own distinct, unique personality.
So colourful. And obviously like the new Super Mario Brothers games are like vibrant and bright, but like the palette of this was just it was like literally a rainbow palette rather than just like, Sandland is orange and yellow. Like it was just really diverse.
It looks awesome without being like neon or pastel or like it's its own kind of thing.
I wish it had been a bit longer, and I wish, I mean, I hold Mario games to like such a high standard that there's always part of them where I'm like, I wish this went a bit further in some areas. Like I do feel like that, not that they're holding back, but I do feel like there could well be another one of these soon with ideas that they didn't get around to using. Like I wish that I kind of would have liked there to be a couple more characters in there that you could play as. I think is a bit of a missed opportunity. I sort of, even though they did a bit of a twist on the thing of Bowser being the villain and he's literally a sentient castle in this one, I kind of thought it would have been cool. We're in a different place that's not the Mushroom Kingdom. It would have been cool to have it be a different bad guy or I was sort of expecting there to be a little more escalation or a little more twist in that final world, in that final battle. I was sort of hoping it would, because Mario 3D World has the thing of like the huge tower where Bowser's the cat, and it's sort of like this Godzilla, King Kong kind of thing where he's scaling the building. It didn't quite get to where I was hoping it would for the climax, given how nutso everything was getting just in the levels early on.
Because I really loved all the musical bits of this.
Yes.
And the finale with Bowser being that too is cool. And I liked all of those bits. I think it's the same stuff for me where I loved it. It was number 7 for me. Reason it wasn't a bit higher is because it's a touch easy for the most part.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of a breeze, which is also very deliberate, it seems like, and they've really pitched this one as like playing with your fucking kids.
The post-game stuff gets brutal, but I wish that was kind of threaded in a little bit more. And I would have loved just maybe like one or two more worlds in there. You know, not even...
It's quite short, yeah.
Yeah, because they also, again, it's even just visually with something like a Mario Odyssey, I kind of felt the same thing that you've got like a snow world and you've got a sand world, and those are cool. And then you get into that weird, like the cooking kingdom where just as things sort of start to flex out and make it a little, just even the design and the idea behind the world a little bit more interesting and a bit kooky. And then they sort of cut it off right at the point where I feel like that's the start of it. And I'd like to see them push out, just have another couple of worlds that were a little bit more obtuse and a little bit weird than just like, this is the snow mountain and this is the mine.
I agree, where it's like, it's one of those things where when you have a game that's really good, your criticisms about it are often, I wish there was more of the good stuff.
Yeah. And again, that's only because I hold these games to such a high standard, and when they're at the apex of their creativity, I think that, like, for me, there's very few things that can come close to it. And like, I'd love to see them do something where they are so good at tapping into when they want to be. They're so good at reaching back into their archives. I'd love to see them do a Mario game where the villain is Wart from, Mario 2. Reach
Bring
back
Wario
in
back and
have Wario. I kind of was really hoping that you'd get to the end of this and you would unlock a new character or two to play as, which they did in Mario 3D.
Those are the couple of like actual kind of missteps that I felt with this game, is that having the characters be tied to the easy mode is kind of weird.
Yep.
And then the badges are like a half mechanic where I think they're kind of cool, and the levels where you have to use certain badges are the most fun you have with the badges.
Yeah.
So like them having to
make all characters play the same so that...
And all the badges could be used in any level, so they kind of can't be used in any level at the same time.
I just never ended up using them because a lot of them felt like they were concessions for, again, younger players or...
But then again, the levels where they introduce them and you've got to like do a license test of like prove you can use this badge. Really great. And then the very final level is, did you get up? It's like an ultimate badge test thing. You've got to do all of them one after the other, and it's fucking tough, and it's really fun to be like, to have these interesting different mechanics that aren't in other Mario games for the most part be required of you and give you something to do. But again, that the point that I liked when they did use it, so I wish it had more of the thing.
I kind of just wish the badge levels had have just existed as levels where you go in and it's like, here's the challenge in this level. Your jump is different or whatever, and then and make all the characters control the same in those levels. Because having all these different characters and they all control the same, because what used to be Luigi having that higher jump, well, that's a badge now. So you've got to make them all a blank canvas to be able to affix that onto. I would have rather them have Peach has her float jump, Luigi has his flutter jump. You have Wario in there and he can do his little dash attack or whatever it is. Have them all be mechanically different, and then just have the badge challenges be their own little standalone levels without it being a thing that you unlock that you can affix.
And those quibbles are there because when it's doing its top shelf stuff, it's so fucking good. Like, it's so creative. It's one of the densest games of the year in terms of just idea. And the best Mario games are like that, and this is absolutely doing the same thing. It looks fucking so good to me. Like, all the little fun little animations and just like the vibe of it is so detailed and thoughtful and cared about. So I really like that game.
And hearing that they put more budget into the animations than they've ever done before, and just these games became a bit by the numbers, and you see this in action immediately. And you
for nearly 20 years now, too, with the new ones.
Immediately you go, this is what these games should look like. Like, they're Disney. Mario should be like dangling out of the pipe when he comes out. Like, there should be just all this stuff going on. And even, I know some people hated the flowers, but I
liked them.
I liked them.
There was only one that annoyed me because he told me where a secret was. And I was
like,
oh, brother, I've got it.
I liked when you'd go into like a little cave and there'd be one down there and he'd be like, I'm so lonely.
Yeah.
Or just like you'd be like, how'd you get up here? Like
But they added that you can turn them off if you didn't like them,
In the trailer, I thought they were going to be a bit like Marvel-y, like, no, he's behind you kind of stuff. But they were all, they for the most part, and I liked that as a I don't need Mario talking, going, "Oh, what's going on here?"
Oh,
I
brother.
liked, getting that feeling.
I'm
of,
Luigi, your brother.
I liked getting that feeling of the, if you're in like a weird or scary environment in the game or whatever, like having the flower be like, "Nah, what's going on?" Like I liked it being through him rather than Mario having big cutscenes or whatever.
I totally thought they were fine. Yeah, didn't really. They were absolutely fine to me, and just such a fun game. And for sure, if you have kids, I bet that is one to just no brainer pick up and just creative and fun the whole way through.
And I agree with you when you said when we reviewed it, you don't want another one of these. You want them to just go back to the drawing board and
I
do
want
what
another
they
one
did
of what this is. You know what I mean? But if they have more ideas for this, I'd take it.
Well, that's my caveat. If they're going to do a 1 to 2, I'd love it to come out soon. Just crank it out. If it's going to be another long wait, totally go back to the drawing board again.
Don't make this the we've had 20 years of Wonder games now and have it be like the special thing about this is that it's fresh.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that interests me and more. But also, fuck do I know?
You know a fair bit.
A Battle
what
of
about
Hastings
video games?
took place in the year 1066.
What year did Crazy Taxi 2 come out?
Ooh, 2000.
Okay.
I want to say.
Well, you know a lot then. You got a fair, a wide spectrum.
It's a
number 3 we're on?
Yep.
that was number 3? Okay.
Well, I mean, you could argue that this game is not as fresh as some other games that came out this year.
Okay.
But I don't give a fuck what you think.
I had remasters from 1996 and 2001 on my list.
And I never played the original version of this, but I absolutely loved and thought was a near perfect game, Mr. Resident Evil 4.
Yes.
Is it time to talk Resident Evil 4? Have we all said it?
Yeah. It was my
nice.
first.
Sick.
Yeah, it was my number 5.
Yeah,
as
right.
well.
I fucking... And so, both of you guys had played this already, hadn't you?
Again, like Metroid, a number of times.
Right.
But this is different to those ones where it's enough of a redoing that it's not just not just upgrading the visuals and tightening the controls. Like it's quite different.
But in terms of like the characters, the design, the locations, it was all new to me. And it just did all of it as like the best that it can be. I saw the clear lineage from this to Village, and I think I still kind of like the sort of idiosyncrasies of Village a bit more aesthetically. But in terms of playing a game, this was my third favorite video game experience of the year. I loved everything about it. It didn't get frustrating at any point. It was always interesting and full of momentum. The bosses were fun. The design was great. The characters were stupid. It's all over the top. High drama, high action set pieces. Yeah, I just had a fucking great time with it.
The challenges are challenging and feel good when you get through them. If you have, like for me, the final bit was a walk in the park.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I had not bought the rocket launcher until right before that battle.
Yeah.
And just, it did make it a bit easy, but I didn't feel like I shortchanged myself. I was like, I played it well. I held off until the last possible minute. That's why an item like that is in the game for you at that point if you need it.
It's so fucking good, man. Like, it's the best remake of all time, probably. I think it outdoes their 2 remake. But it's one of the Resident Evil remakes is the best remake.
Yes.
Because it 4 was the best Resident Evil and 4 remake is once again the best Resident Evil to me. Like, every bit of the gameplay feels exactly right.
Yeah.
It's all... And it's like... It's kind of stiff and it's kind of... It's not done necessarily in the way that every other third-person shooter is. It doesn't control exactly the same as them and all of that.
It's not an Uncharted or anything like that.
It's doing it its way because it knows exactly how to do its thing.
Yeah.
The reactivity of all the enemies that you're shooting and how arcadey it almost feels. I mean, literally in the Mercenaries mode, it turns it into an arcade game that feels fucking great.
Yeah.
Like going through those levels and getting the S's and all of that. Oh, I loved it.
Yeah. But it's funny because you say that it feels a little stiff, but it's it's so loosened up from what it originally was, where
Right.
you couldn't shoot while you were moving and you had to be anchored. So
and I only mean in comparison to like the push for fluidity and everything
Yes.
that is in a
Yeah.
lot of things. But this is very video gamey, very like it has controls rather than like approximations of how to make a character move. If that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
But it totally works. Like every level is a level. You are moving around a map.
Yep.
But it also looks great and looks so like immersive and whatever. Like
Yeah.
the visuals are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And just the thing of, even though it is still very video gamey, it's like, wait, so he's got all these guns and stuff in a briefcase that he's carrying around?
Yeah,
Which
he
is-
pre-ordered the briefcase.
which
That's
makes-
the only thing that I don't like about this game is the monetization stuff in the store, which you don't need to engage
Oh,
with.
yeah.
It's
Right.
fucking grubby.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
like it. Capcom's trying it on with that stuff, but
Yeah.
whatever.
But like you've got that, which is just makes no sense. But then it's like, well, no, it's very realistic because you can't carry stuff that won't fit in the briefcase.
Yeah.
But even that, of having to sit there and be like, oh, fuck, all right, I'll rotate those shotgun around.
Yeah.
It's like, I just love that. There's been whole other games that have come out that are literally just that mechanic in a
Yeah,
game.
that's actually a game that I should have mentioned. I think Backpack Hero
Yeah,
is
I started
the name
playing
of it.
that, yeah.
So that came out this year, and it's literally turning that mechanic into a game with some other stuff. But yeah, it's done super well in this. Again, that is the survival aspect, the item sort of conservation and prioritization.
Getting to a tough area and then getting into a room that is just littered with those herbs and ammo
yeah.
and just being like,
Give me that green herb.
yeah.
Like all the weapons are fun to use, but you have to be selective about which one, which adds to the replayability of it for me, where like I kind of want to play through it just using each weapon each time because
Right.
they each feel it's different and fun to use.
Yep.
Yeah, that upgrade path for each of them is like, it's engaging. It's not like a chore. It's you get to prioritize your game style and whatever weapon that you enjoy using. All the puzzle stuff's great. I don't know how different that is from the original, but
It's all pretty. It's the same stuff. It's just like someone started again.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
think it's so interesting because I remember after 3 coming out and then people starting to go, well, I wonder what's going to happen. Are they going to do are they going to do 4? Because 4's probably the one that needs remake. 4 already is fairly modern. Like
And they've ported it to everything.
yeah,
and, it's
and,
kept
it
up.
really was the big question of like, well, would that be because they had really completely started from scratch with 2 and 3 with even the perspective of how you played it and everything, and just being like with 4, like, is there really the need, and what would they even do? Will it just be a much more simpler case of like the graphics just look a bit better,
Right.
but the fact that they still managed to exceed expectations when there was kind of less to do technically is really impressive.
'Cause
Like still pushing themselves to remake the game.
The specifics of most of it are pretty different,
Right.
but also it's really hard to like describe and quantify because like it's the same stuff, but like they've added in this bit and that bit, and there's a couple of like boss fights maybe and stuff like that aren't in the first one, and it's maybe I'm getting confused, but anyway, it's done really interesting,
And especially
it's
having-
a crazy level of remake that
Right.
all the little side mission things, the little blue contracts that you get, they're all super fun. I tried to do every single one of them and I missed fucking one and I'm still feeling it. Like it just is like we were talking about with Mario, every new bit, even though you're doing the same stuff again and again, you're shooting the same guys for basically the whole time.
Yeah,
Like, there's
yeah.
not really much. There's some different enemies, but they all play pretty similarly because they're fun to fucking play.
Yeah.
against.
Yeah.
And then every different subsection is like a fresh little twist, and here's this thing, and now you're both sides and whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
this is, they're not the same style of games. It's not really fair to compare them. But like Final Fantasy 16, where I was saying I was getting bored with that because all these encounters happen in what feels like sort of the same space, and this is just the opposite of that, where now you're in a big hall, or now you're in a little barnyard. So you've
it's
got
a cave.
Yeah, so like every time is a bit different in the landscape and the layout, and then
Because
like
that's
what
under that
means.
the levels are thoughtfully different.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And even when you're getting overpowered, it doesn't feel unfair. It's just like, okay, I've got to change my strategy here. I've got to
Yes.
think more about, now I know that guy's up there. I just wasn't like looking around enough. It just is so much fun.
All of the visuals, the sound design, the Separate Ways DLC thing was great, and it came out like really soon after, and that was actually like well priced and all of that, and it's a bit different. Ada has a grappling hook. That's a bit of fun.
And especially
the VR mode again, I don't remember if I mentioned this in this episode, but I haven't had the chance to try that yet. It's just come out, but I'm keen to.
Well, having played the VR version that came out on the Oculus 2 years ago, and that really feeling like, as someone who'd played the original, like, wow, this is the best way to go back to this. This might be the definitive version of this game, and to still have it, overtaken is they really.
And that mode's free if you have a $1,000 headset, but like it's free.
Yeah.
It's sick. Resident Evil 4 is a good ass game. It always has
gone back
been.
to the well of it so many times, and they've ported it to everything. They brought out a VR version of the original game just 2 years ago, and now there's a remake and a VR version of the remake, and it still not feel egregious.
The fact that it's a remake of a game from 2004 or 5 that I didn't whinge about being a remake this whole year. I don't think you could probably dig it up, but like it's so good.
Well, I think because they'd proven themselves with 2, and it just was like, okay, they're in this era where they're not doing things by halves when it comes to this. So you know that it's going to be great, even if it is just the same game underneath. But the fact that they did more with it than that is just, what a game. What a time.
So good.
Really good game.
What number was that?
That was my 3.
Your 3?
Yeah.
Time for my 3.
All right.
Coming in at number 3, and I expect to be able to talk about this now because of your 2 being next. I think I've made myself clear. I can't reach my notebook where it's written down. If only dozens of little guys could bring it over to me. Wouldn't that be fucking fun as shit?
Forgot about this game.
I'll wait here and for some reason love it. My number...
You're going to be 15 minutes, sorry.
That's okay.
Unless a big, strong Ben Vanel that's worth 15 of me can come along.
I'll go off and do something else in the
there.
meantime. That's the beauty of Dandori. As I learned from my number 3 game of the year, fucking Pikmin 4, baby.
Pickies.
That's what I was talking about earlier, like a game like this that has been talked about for 12 years or something like that. It's my number 2.
Yeah. Pikmin 4, my 3, Tommy 2. Fucking great game. There was a argument going on in my head about whether this was just my number 1 game, because I think moment to moment I had more fun with this than maybe any other game this year. It's up there with this top 3. I just think it's fantastic.
I think
After that, I'm just going to get out of the way. The intro is bad and it's too long and it's too slow. Other than that, the game is fantastic.
I think because I had played the demo and all of that tutorial stuff is in the demo.
Right.
And that progress carries over. I think because I'd sort of done that thinking like, I get to play the first, not even like I'm getting the demo to see if I'll like it, just, great, I get to do the first 2 hours of this game. So by the time it actually came out, I'd kind of forgotten that. And I'd sort of done that knowing that like, I'm going to do a bit here and then have to wait like a month for the game to come out.
Right.
I sort of don't really have any memory of, but like everyone says that about it. I've just kind of deleted that from my brain.
Well, and the way I did this was like, I played an hour of Pikmin 1 and some point in the last 20 years, but I played Pikmin 1, 2, and 3 before 4, and I was like, I've fucked myself up. I've gorged on Pikmin. There's no way I'm going to like 4. Loved 4.
Yeah.
Because, all of them, they're just great games that it's crazy I never really got around to, because, so for Pikmin 4, it is so... creative in the same ways we've been talking about with a lot of these games, where you're doing a similar thing all of the time, but it keeps throwing different twists on it, different little curveballs, different things for you to pick up. And I couldn't have been more into every single one of them for the entire duration. I am struggling to explain why, but there's something magic about what they do with the game that they're pretty simple, like things of, I hate time management.
Yeah.
in real life and other, it is an awful thing to have to do, and the progress of time and the inevitability of tomorrow coming is one of my deepest torments. And yet it's the main mechanic of this game, and it totally sucks.
There's a lot of stuff in this that should be too stressful in the sense of like the time management stuff, and also you early on especially, you spend a long time cultivating your new little Pikmin, and it takes you a long time to build up a big bank of them. And inevitably, you have points in this game where they just are going to get wiped out,
decimated.
It's an inevitability. You can't do anything about it. You do have to start thinking about them.
There's that one stupid bit in a fucking cave where that big roly-poly thing is in a little ditch.
Yep.
There's no way. Fuck you.
Yeah,
but it's still great.
It should be too much. Like it should be annoying. But there's just something about it where you go, and I like this one is the first one that gives you the option of rewinding and bringing them back to life.
Which I don't think I ever did.
I just because I'd played the other ones, I was like, cool that's in there for anyone new, but I'm not going to not engage with that because to me that's just what the game is. You make some stupid calls, you wipe out most of your guys. Now you just got to go back and do the busy work of
make stupid
picking
calls.
More of them.
Ring, 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 ring. Oh, I still love you. Ring, ring. But like, every time I got to one of like the Dendori challenges, which are like the self-contained sort of time attack like versus modes and all of that stuff, I would get re-stressed out every time from exactly that, thinking, oh, this is going to be stressful because I got 4 minutes to do this. I can't. And every time I'd be surprised by the fact that I was having so much fun doing it, which felt silly at the 30th time because like learn. But every time I'd be like, oh boy, here we go. And then just have a great time with how well made each of those little levels are, how well spaced out everything is for you to exactly get from here to here in just the right amount of time. Like
it's such a like the little segments that you do are timed, like they are going to take the same amount of time every time you play because there's a set time limit for a day in the game. So it's such a classic one for sitting down and being like, I'll do a day because I know that that's going to take as long as it takes. And I'll do that, and then I'll go to bed or whatever.
Right.
And then you get to the end of that day, and you're like, "Oh, but I was just about to get that log out of the way and be able to get into that next bit. Now I've got to go do the next day now."
It takes all of the elements from the previous one, like the caves from 2 and the sort of multiple characters thing from 3 and the time stuff from 1, and like does them all the best that they've been done out of those games, and then hones them up and makes them better and fit in more, and then also. A second aspect.
You've got a doggy.
That I was going to say. You do got dog.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about I think it was maybe you were saying about 2 maybe, like when you're running around and it's easy to lose track of, like your little guys won't follow you accurately and just being able to just have everyone hop on the back of the dog.
Oh,
and that kind of centralizes you a bit more and you're not having that thing of like, wait, have I been running too fast and I've now like 4 of them have been picked off by one of those things behind me.
He's always with you and he's got separate abilities that like the charge thing to like whenever you're fighting a big thing, put all the Pikmin on him, charge at them, they all leap off from him. And
he mechanically they've just thought
what's
about
his fucking name? It's
Ochi.
not Poochie. Ochi.
The thing of in the past you would need like 20 Pikmin to knock down a little wall. And with Ochi, you just can use him to charge. All the things that... it's a game about busy work, but they just identified the couple of little areas where it was a bit too much busy work and just gave you this way of being able to just get that done a lot quicker.
And that's the thing is rather than it being a game about busy work, it feels like a game about satisfyingly ticking off tasks.
Right. It's
twice as long as it needs to be. There's so much in there. It was like 40 hours long or something by the time I'd done everything in that game.
This was probably the most... Not the most I played a game, but the most I did in a game. I ticked off everything. Like,
same.
I just felt that as I was getting near the end, I was like, oh yeah, and it's got that weird like fake credits bit that's not the end at all.
It's so early in.
It's like 60% of the way in. It's bizarre.
If that, yeah.
Yeah, but I as I knew I was getting to like the end, I was like, oh, I'm going to go back into all the other levels and just do 100% of all of them before I go to the final boss in here. And like, I am very much someone who generally just is pretty happy to do the story stuff and the odd little side thing that's come up. But this, I was like, I just want to live in this little world for as long as I can.
I was really like disappointed when it was over because like I just could have eaten up more of that game until I got sick.
And you're right. It is the perfect version of this game. The combination of like the technology finally being up to scratch for these kinds of bigger ideas, and they've made enough of them now that they've refined these ideas where it's really hard to think like what they could do for the next one that could be any better than this. And it's such a cliche, but I really think the only answer is like maybe go just full open world where all of the levels exist in the same physical space and you can like walk between all of them and open it up instead of going back to a hub world. Like that's really the only thing that you could think like there's no part of this. It's like, oh, it'd be cool if they put this in there because it's in there.
It feels like a real cap off of this whole thing but with new ideas the whole way. It's not a retread of all that stuff. But it does take those ideas and just do them like, oh, that's how they should have done it or whatever. The little Olimar side thing is really cool. Like there's so many fun, like quirky surprise things in there like that. I liked going around talking to all my guys in the camp.
Yeah, that was cool too. Yeah, having like that little hub and it looks so great. Like for something that's always been based in the real world and, you know, you can sort of see like, oh, this is a shrunk down bit of someone's garden. But again, it being on hardware that can kind of and again, like a game that they've somehow made look better on the Switch than it has any right to. Like, I don't know how they've done it.
Depth of field stuff really adds to it. It's colorful. Like the design is really good so that even though it's simplistic, the camera angle being a bit lower sounds so silly, but it like really does make you feel a lot more in there, and it's a useful camera angle to have.
And being and having a bit that's inside for the first time, it being a lot more real world stuff than just like, oh, this is a garden. Like you've got a bit where you're like running around in like an outdoor like barbecue fire pit thing and having the inside and even just like the garden having like more actual details, like a little sand pit and like a sprinkler and all that kind of stuff.
It feels like a Pikmin victory lap that then also during that victory lap it does the best driving of the race. Yeah. You know?
And a perfect entry point. Like you don't have to have, and I think that's why it's got that laborious tutorial, because they are assuming that a lot of people coming to this have not played any of the other ones.
Which absolutely, could. It's a summary of every other Pikmin game, like and just better done than any of those. It's a sick game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's my number 2 game of the year.
I'll give it a solid 3. Third, not out of 10.
Third place.
Yeah.
My third favorite game of the year, 3 out of 10.
Well, my second favorite game of the year. I feel like I'm going to have to wait one more loop around the circuit to talk about.
It'll be soon.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, maybe it's right now. Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh. We'll talk about that in a loop.
Okay.
Yep.
Because my number 2 we'll talk about in this loop.
Yeah.
My number 2 is...
Mm-hmm.
Can I guess?
Yeah, it starts with a T or a Z.
Yeah.
Or, well, those are the two. Or L, depending on your organization. It's The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
It's my second favorite game of the year. Tommy, it's your first.
We're going to have to wait to start a new loop. It's my number 1 game of the year.
Fucking hell, what is this bloody Returnal? We're starting so many loops over.
Sure. What is this, 12 minutes?
Yeah. I was going to say Looper as well, but that's low effort.
So we've gotten...
We're into our number 1s now.
This is number 2s and number 1s and shit. So 2 Baldur's Gate 3 for Ben.
Yep.
2 Tears of the Kingdom for me, which now you know what mine and Tommy's are as well. But here we go. Tommy, your favorite game of the year. Drum roll, please, for the guy who's already done the trick.
Yep.
It's Zelda time.
The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom.
Woo, baby.
The Legend of Zelda, I don't know, 10? What number are they?
Oh, good question. Do you want me to figure it out?
That would have been great if they'd have just chucked that in there.
2 was on The Adventure of Link. That was Zelda 2. Anyway.
And then they just abandoned it immediately.
Yeah. Right. So we're talking The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, was my 4th for the record.
Oh, right. I've forgotten that.
Fucking sick game.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
In terms of, because we've talked about remakes a fair bit here, it's not relevant because this is a sequel and...
Well, it's more like the Marvel Spider-Man 2 and Jedi Survivor sequel situation.
Yeah.
But you also could imagine if they didn't make this and then they did a, 10 years down the line, they're like, we're doing a remake of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
But then it could almost have been that, where it's like, oh, but we've, it's not just, in that Resident Evil style of
Yes.
or even Final Fantasy VII remake,
Yeah,
right? Where it's
totally.
Like, we fucked up the story a little bit and it's the same map, but shit's fallen from the sky now and there's more in it.
Coming to it with their thing of like, it's the same map. It's the same map, but there's a few islands in the sky. I was weirded out by it and sort of trusted them, I guess, because Breath of the Wild is one of the all-time best games to me.
What?
And yeah, it's a pretty rarely held opinion.
Yeah, a bit of a contrarian take there.
I'm a back and forth man.
Back and forth, man.
Yeah, it's a term that means that. Don't look it up.
Okay.
The level of innovation they had in what you're doing in this game, the amount of new shit that was in there, because I thought Breath of the Wild was all about the exploration, and it was, and that was that it's impossible to recreate that in the same map.
Yep.
Right,
and they realized it's probably impossible to recreate that in any map.
Yeah.
So let's not do that. Let's
Yep.
go take a complete left turn, bring in new mechanics that you're going to be exploring, and some new a fucking whole underground bit and
Yep.
the islands and all of that, and like,
Making the islands like the temples, basically,
Yeah.
or like their own little challenge thing, rather than just like maybe what we imagined of like, oh yeah, there's just some places to like explore. It's like no, there's purpose to them.
Yeah.
There's a curated design to them that was interesting in and of itself.
they changed up everything that's on the ground, and obviously there's all new quests and like a lot more in depth, I guess, than the first one. But like it was just such a clever way to make the whole thing feel completely fresh again.
Yeah, and early on, I was like, oh, I'm happy to explore the same landmass. Number one, because I think this has been designed with the mindset of you played Breath of the Wild a lot when it came out and you haven't gone, like it was sort of the perfect thing for
Right.
like you haven't gone back to it since. So it's, a little bit cloudy in the memory. But early on going, oh, this is the fun of exploring this again, is going to these towns and finding these places and seeing how they've been changed or seeing how they're reacting to like that town where
Which is
all of the shit has fallen onto the top of it and it's become the sort of like tourist hub of like, hey, check out all this weird shit from the sky.
Yeah.
It's something that I kind of wanted out of the, like, after Breath of the Wild ended. I remember wishing, like, oh, I wish you could go around and see everyone being like, oh, phew, glad that's over.
Yeah.
And they've sort of done that, but instead of phew, glad that's over, they're like, what? First calamity? I
Yeah.
don't remember. But that, like, yeah, you're right. Going and revisiting everywhere and seeing how it's changed was really exciting in a way that I wasn't expecting it to be quite as like effective and impactful as it is in this.
And I thought like the temples being they I think they weren't still quite to the level of what people want from like the old school dungeon feel, but they were closer in that direction. And also the bosses just being so much more interesting than
Yeah.
in Breath of the Wild. They were just like a different looking version of Ganon each time. Like them actually having, like the one I did first was the one up in the. Look, we're going to do some spoilers for this one.
Yes.
The wind temple, the one up in the sky where you're like having to like fall through him and shatter those bits of him. I
Yeah.
thought
The
immediately I
music's
was like,
fucking awesome.
yeah, I was like, they are already like doing so like that. Again, the thing I kept realizing about this game was there wasn't any part of Breath of the Wild that I thought was lacking or that I thought, oh, it's a shame they could have done that better. And then you play this and it's like, oh yeah, this bit is so much better. They have done this so much better.
Well, I think that applies to the story as well. Like,
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild, it was such a straight down the line and not a lot of heft to any of the story beats. Whereas this, being a reflection upon that game and also a deepening of it, and just coming up with some really innovative ways to introduce things and introduce mechanics and get you to meet these people over again and engage with the world. I think it was just
And there
way
is
better.
like too much in it. But, you can, once again, you don't have to worry about the Korok seeds if you don't want. You don't have to worry
Right.
about all the shrines. But I did make myself go and do all of those dragon tiers.
Yeah.
Because they were giving you such nice little bits of story. And even just like you find Zelda's house in a village and she's written this really sweet note about how she's got this present for Link and just like this like deepening of the sort of like what's going on with the two of them. and that reveal of her having turned herself into a dragon, and that's where you get the sword and everything. Like, I just thought was, yeah, you go to get the Master Sword and you're like, I'd be happy to just find it in the forest again.
Right.
If that's all it is again, I know that it's there, that will be cool, but like adding this extra layer onto it that is like really beautiful and told so beautifully. Like
that's the thing, because the first Breath of the Wild had all the character and the individual people you met, and like everywhere you sort of went, like there was a fun gore on here and whatever, but the main thing wasn't the point.
Yeah.
And this the ending of this is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
The whole ending sequence from when you go down to the bottom to when you are, and I didn't fucking see it coming, the dragon thing.
You're right.
And it was such a cool way to end that off. The music fucking swelling up, having so well done.
I also
beyond anything that this series has done with its story. Maybe Ocarina of Time at the time, but like really cool.
There were so many points in it where I felt like, okay, now I've got a handle on what they've done here, and even though that, they've thrown a lot, you start fucking around underground and you're like, okay, I get this, and you're doing some stuff up in the sky and you're like, okay, this is how the temples function. You get your little buddy who's going along with you to do the thing. Okay, I get it. But then still, like, deep in, I was up in the sky and there's that island that is surrounded by thunder cloud, and being like, I gotta get my way. And you do also get so used to, and I think we talked about this a lot when we reviewed it, that it takes a little bit to get your head around if you're sort of used to the format of a lot of other games where you do these quests and you sort of get nothing for it. Like you maybe get a low ranking sword or whatever when you get so used to like you're getting XP that is leveling you up. A lot of this game is you are doing stuff just for the reward is the experience of doing it. It's the gameplay experience of having done it. And so going into that thundercloud and being like, I mean, I'll do this because but I'm sure it's just like a good shield or something. And then that takes you on a quest line where you end up getting a fucking mech.
Yeah.
You know on the map where your temples are, and that's the main shit that you're doing. But then there's this whole other little hidden thing in there that is so not on the roadmap of. It's not telegraphed in the rest of the game of like, this is something that you might end up unlocking, and it's not like anything you did in the first game. Yeah. I just thought that was fucking awesome.
And that sort of stuff is all over the place in this one where like even the little things where it's like, oh, someone went down the river. So you'll go in this fun little, you've got to build a boat and go down there. And like down in the desert, there's this storm and then you've got to solve that. And like every bit has its new thing and it's all like different from each other. That lady with the walrus toys and like so many different little bits and pieces that like it's insane the amount of stuff there is, and it really makes you understand how it took the sort of 6 years from the first one, because then we haven't even talked about the fact that all of this fucking physics shit that's in there is insane, and like genuinely some of the most like impressive execution of that type of thing that has ever been in a game.
Well, but like other developers are like, we literally don't understand how they got that in this game and got the game to run.
And
I remember at the time people on what was Twitter, rest in peace, being like, it's nuts that in one of the 150 shrines that you might not find, there is the most impressive, like that little snake robot like cart thing you've got to build to go over things. They're like, I don't know how they made this,
and
they tossed it off like it was fucking nothing.
On a fucking Nintendo Switch,
and it launched
cool.
with no bugs. In an era where games that feel like they're doing a lot less than this, and I think you said at the time, Knox, like the rewind ability that you have, which makes you realize that the game is not only having to render all the stuff that you're seeing, but it's also having to keep a memory of everything that's happened around it at all times. Yeah. And this game should have been a fucking mess when it launched. And it runs a little choppily on the Switch, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this should be a game that launches and stuff is fucking clipping through, you can imagine this being a complete mess of bugs in any other developer's hands. But like the fact that I think it came out that it was ready. It technically was like ready at the end of last year or something, and they just spent 6 months just polishing and doing bug testing. And
because you can like in quotes break stuff, but it breaks in a way where you're like, oh yeah, that was too heavy or whatever, Like that's the cool thing about it, is trying something out and it not working because you fucked up
Yeah.
or whatever, or it working because it's like, you got me.
That's geometry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
And you
figured
can
it out.
brute
That
strength
plank's
it.
real fucking long.
Right.
You walk over here. You've nailed it, brother.
And definitely, like, this is one where even if there is a upgrade of it on the next console, I probably would go in. Like, if it had, obviously
They've got him.
Yeah. Yeah.
the Switch can only, it does a great job here with what it's capable of, but it can only go so far in the sense that you go into a shrine and when you come out, stuff's like if you've made a little car and driven it there, stuff does reset in the overworld. Like,
and there's a certain distance. If you walk away, it's not going to be
Right.
there.
Yeah,
right.
so a version of this where it's like
Everything's permanent.
everything's permanent.
Yeah.
If that was like one of the upgrades on new hardware, then again, I feel like, well, that'd play differently enough that that's such a small thing, but that would be worth it if you could make a little car and then it's there permanently.
The amount
Hell
of
yeah.
shit
the little
you
car
can-
upgrade.
Little
Yeah.
car upgrade.
The amount of shit you can stick together
Yeah.
and create functioning stuff out of is really nuts. I loved going through all of like the temples and all of the shrines and
Yeah, I love the shrines.
all of it. It's crazy how high quality every aspect of not only like the build of the game, but then the actual many little challenges and fun little quirky things and cute ideas and like extremely different from the last thing you saw stuff that's in there is bananas.
Yeah.
Even just the opening.
I love how bananas it is as much as those bloody ninja guys.
Oh, yeah.
They like bananas.
Yeah.
Even just the opening kind of tutorial bit where you're up on that that big sky island and
Yep.
before you have the ability to go down to the surface, so you kind of have to do everything up there. If that was just its own standalone like indie that had come out this year,
Right.
that would be up the top of my list.
Sure.
Like even just that bit.
Yep.
And again, going into it being like, I kind of think we know what this is going to be, but also like they had been so selective with what they'd shown off and the bits that they had shown off of like, oh, you're crafting stuff. I was like, I don't know that I'm interested in this.
And then they didn't talk about the underground thing, and I read it
Right.
somewhere, so I kind of know. But like the first time you jump down a chasm and it does that boom
Yeah.
noise thing as you go down there, and then it's the whole size of the map, and it's a lot more empty, but it's still fun to explore because it's this different mechanic of the light and the dark,
spooky
and
and all of the like the corruption stuff.
yeah.
Like
And the
that
little-
being a thing you have to deal
And the
with.
chasing the Yiga clan around, so you
Yeah.
you
Clan,
do
that's
get
them.
those little bits where it is giving you some sort of like interestingly designed little areas in there.
Yeah.
But even when it's a bit sort of dull, you just farm so many good resources down there to then that loop of going down there to get stuff that you need to go up to the sky to build, like get more of your little God, what are they called? The
Like the crystal.
Oh, Zonite.
the zonite, yeah.
Yeah,
Build
yeah.
those little like steering wheels and stuff like that
Right.
for your crafting on the surface.
And
Yep.
down there, it's like this sort of like a Minecraft type survival game or
Yeah.
whatever, and you're doing Minecraft type building and all that stuff. So they've taken inspiration from these things that have gotten massive over the last decade plus, but done their own spin on it where it's completely different to them in a lot of ways and like way more fun to me because like I
Yeah.
don't really engage with that stuff ever. It's not been that interesting. To me, and then this really was, and immediately you know how to build stuff. Your creativity with that stuff is encouraged because it's so simple and so logical. It's 5 out of 10.
I think we mentioned as well that 5 out of 10.
Huh?
You don't literally upgrade Link, and weapon wise you get weapons from
And you get more hearts and whatever, but like
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
sort of
I guess,
your
yes.
stamina in your hearts, but yeah,
there's
there's
such a
not-
small thing in
skill-wise,
it.
yeah.
But by the end of the game, well, from the first time you drop into the depths to as you get later on, and you're like, you have to do quests down there and stuff. The progression, or maybe of like my confidence in traversing that world, or figuring out like, oh yeah, I'll be fine. I'll just like shoot this bulb over here and jump off this cliff, and just becoming much more confident with traversing that stuff. You can just track your own progress based on that, and you do improve that and become more of your mastery of that world increases the more you play it.
flying around in a helicopter at the end of that thing, just gobbling up the depths.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
whatever. I don't give a shit about any of you guys. It's so cool and so organic. And so, like, it feels very personal in the way that, like, I'm exploring this world. Because obviously they designed it to be done like that. But, like, it does feel like you are in charge.
Yeah.
And I loved feeling that feeling for the first time. I
And
love
just
all
like-
the characters and the writing and shit too.
Yeah,
It's just
great
so
character
quirky
design,
and
Yeah.
fun.
the fun little monster guys where you get your little what are you giving them? What were they called? The blue fucking things.
Oh, those little gems, the bubble
Bubble
gems
gems.
or whatever they're
Oh,
called.
those guys.
those
Yeah,
guys,
yeah,
the two
yeah.
brothers. Yeah,
And
like
those-
all of that design is great.
I love that as well. The weirdo brother from the first one being like, my brother's kind of a fucking
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The bits where you go into a town and it's been overrun by monsters, so you have that like little bar of
man.
having
Yep.
to take all of them out. The beachside town where you do that, and then you've got to also chop down trees to like rebuild their houses and stuff.
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
Man.
It's if you never got around to Breath of the Wild and you want to play this. Someone was asking me this who was about to buy a Switch, and they were like, should I just go straight into that? And it's hard because it's like I don't think you can, but I also feel like if you play Breath of the Wild is so long, and then doing this back to back might lose the impact. Like
I played Breath of the Wild again the whole way through in like 2020 or something. And even that was a little soon.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like they're a two-piece that requires years apart.
Yeah.
Which is a strange thing to have, but it kind of just is that.
And I mean, even just to make the same map again and have it be not feel lazy.
With more differences than, maybe that sounds like it's giving credit for. Like they've changed, it's the same structure, but like everywhere you go almost is like there's something different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was,
yes.
it was the big. I also just, I really loved the rollout of it and how it was cool going in and being like, I don't really know what this is going to be exactly.
I couldn't help but play more than 100 hours of it, and I thought, damn, that's the only time I'll do that this year. And it's crazy that I was wrong.
Yeah.
But fuck, it's such a good game.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, it's not as good as my number one game of the year, which has been raised. It's been brought up once before.
Last week.
Last week, if you can harken back to 7 days ago, Armored Core 6 is my number one game of the year. First Armored Core game I've ever played, and I just fucking loved it. I guess I'm fully on the From Software train now, and this sidestep from that other stuff that we talked about with Lies of P, this more fluid, more dynamic, but more contained, arena-based sort of almost levels and gameplay. I just fucking loved it. I loved the setting, this odd sort of near automata, sideways sort of...
Like a goofy cyberpunk, but very straight
Right.
down the line in a way that makes it goofy. And it's
but
then that you're fighting like guys who have, Optimus Prime themed fucking robots and stuff. And they're like, I'm the boss of the town.
Yeah.
Like, it's sick.
Everyone's calling you different fucking weird code names based on whatever clan they're in. But yeah, that setup, it's all such like a light touch. Like none of it is overly explained. And when it does try to explain stuff, you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like it's just a great approach to science fiction storytelling. And I just loved that. And then, yeah, the gameplay, I had the most fun playing this game of any game of the year. Once you put enough time into it, again, like you feel you are becoming just a master of this game. You can customize these things down to how you want to play or adapt to the boss you're fighting against. Everything felt great, like all of the guns, all the missiles and shit, everything just has such great feedback. And then, yeah, like boss design is fantastic, as of course it would be from software.
But like, I guess not as a given when they're doing something that, has all of a lot of the same positive aspects in terms of like the design sensibilities as the Soulsborne whatever games, but then is so different.
Yeah.
Like it was my number 8, and purely because it wasn't higher because I just need to spend more time with it. Because every time I went to think about going back, I wanted to spend heaps of time with it, so didn't want to go back in fully again anyway, because it's so in depth with like the amount of customization that you can, how much stuff you can change about your mech. Really changes how the game plays, and you need to learn all of that stuff It wants you to be good at it, which doesn't feel like a chore. Like you are swapping out components of a robot to go and fight something that's too hard for you. And it feels exciting.
It's an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a great chance for me to not just bang my head against the wall, which has been maybe the issue with like the earlier Souls games, where it's just like, no, you just have to get good.
And I'm sure the Armored Core games too. Again,
yeah. And I did try and play some of the previous ones, and it's just like, do you have a PS3? Like actually a physical PS3, otherwise, you can't.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of that stuff is.
I do.
You should play Armored Core 5. Armored Core 5.
I'm gonna play. Yeah.
But yeah, changing like, I'm gonna play as a tank in this go around, or I'm gonna play as the like lightest, fastest version of this mech with these weapons. It's so I guess it's very, very playable because of that. And then it has not just this story mode where you are occasionally choosing which side to go along with. It has the arena mode where you just get to fucking get dropped into a little virtual arena and test your mettle against what are progressively more difficult and more competent opponents,
as well as multiplayer of that too.
Multiplayer of that as well. Just aesthetically, it's fully like my shit. And like I said, the gameplay is just super tight. It's doing exactly what it is meaning to do. Again, as with like a Tears of the Kingdom, there's no bugs. There's nothing in this game where it's like, oh, well, if that hadn't have hitched up, then I would have won. It's like, no, it's all running perfectly fluidly and smoothly, and it allows you to fully grasp that like this is up to your skill level and how focused you are in this moment. And as with Lies of P and the Soulsborne games, you feel a great sense of satisfaction when you beat that boss that you failed to beat 20 times previously.
Because like in the Elden Rings and whatever, there's lots of different weapons that play completely differently, but you don't really experiment with them that much in one playthrough of that because of the nature of how you're like having to put your stats into certain things and
just falling into a rhythm of playing that style.
And this taking that same level or increasing that level of option and making the focus of the game like, no, fuck with it. Play around, mess around, change your robot completely, apply so many cool different paint jobs. And like it's got some really good like, no, you paint it. Stuff in there that I was surprised to enjoy. Every element of it, like you're saying, is just so if it's in there, it's done right. Which like I guess the only way I could see someone if you just don't like what it's doing, then you won't, because it's just doing what it's doing. And what it's doing is fucking cool, man.
And it's like I've played like other mech games over the past and like the Gundam games, but the MechWarrior games too, and it's just. And it's not even necessarily like, oh, if you like them, you like this. It is very much its own specific thing. But yeah, like you say, it is doing its own specific thing 100% perfectly, in my opinion.
It's a cool middle ground between like feeling like you're controlling a robot or a guy. You can't, it's sort of neither and both.
You get to, you're strafing around and like roller skating basically.
The sense of scale is really cool in it. It feels massive.
It's got that like June the movie vibes of like, this is a giant harvester that's as big as, the Titanic.
Like 50 Titanics or the city that made the Titanic.
It
looks great and it runs quick. I agree. Oh man, I wish I'd have played more of it.
And it does. It's not just for those who have not played it at all. It's not just like like you spawn into a ruined city and then there's like 3 mechs and you beat them. There are missions as it goes on, and then not to spoil anything for you or other Nox, but like there's more about traversal or escaping or there's a big like holding out against oncoming forces. There's a lot of variety in the missions. It's not just zooming into a big open space and shooting stuff.
And I saw a lot of that. Like I feel like I got about halfway through or something, and it's not like crazy long, and it's very replayable. And it's designed to be played through multiple times and everything, because so much of it is about, well, you could redo this because it's different every time because you're coming in with a different attitude. It's good.
Yeah, multiple endings as well, and multiple story paths. So again, replayability in that sense. But yeah, really good game. Didn't really expect to like it as much as I did. Maybe that's also why I'm like so positive on it.
Right.
Oh, I just kind of thought we'd give it a crack because it's a From Software game, and yeah, ended up loving it. Number 1 game of the year for me.
Well, I honestly didn't expect to love my number 1 as much as I did either, because it was an early access game, which I don't love that. It was by a team who didn't do the original of... I hadn't played their games before, and they didn't do the original of the one that is a sequel to. So I was like, oh, whatever. And then it turned out that my favorite game of the year, and one of my favorite games that's ever been made, is my number 1, which is Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah. The bear fucking game.
It's the only part I played. It's number 1. They put out statistics recently of like what choices people have made in this game. More people fuck him as a human than a bear. Halson.
Okay.
So,
all right.
There you go. It's weird with this one too, because I played it throughout August after it came out. Loved it, played so much of it, really enjoyed it, liked the ending, which like people then were like, oh, it's not enough of an ending. They've added an epilogue just recently that I haven't done yet.
Oh.
It's still getting massive updates constantly. So if you haven't even played it yet, it'll probably be better to play it in a year even or whatever. And I don't know what their plans are for expansion and stuff. But anyway, Baldur's Gate 3 is fucking incredible.
Yeah, it has to be, I think, the best game ever of its type. This specific kind of role-playing game is the scope and the scale and the reactability, or the adaptability based on your choices and the things that you do in combat even.
I think that's like what Tears of the Kingdom did for physics in its thing. This does with story, kind of, where it feels like you're completely in control, even though obviously it's an illusion, as is everything. But like the amount of different options you have and the payoff that you get with every single one of them.
Yeah. Heaps of games give you dialogue choices. In a lot of them, it's just for an aesthetic thing. It actually doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
Or the difference is quite negligible. This is like the one thing where it actually does influence things to a great extent.
Hugely. And like in a way that feels completely natural every time. Like it doesn't feel like, oh, I made the wrong choice there, so now, like a choose your own adventure book sometimes it's like, okay, well then you fall in a pit and you die. This is like, okay, well you fall in a pit and now here's the whole pit laid out here and there's stuff to do in the pit. And
you fell in for a reason and you know why.
Yeah, exactly. Like all of the voice acting is basically as perfect as it could be for this game. I love the narrator being there the whole time, doing like the dungeon master thing, telling you like, oh, you fucked up this thing. Like she's great. Every character is interesting and has like really well written and thought out and distinct and unique story. Every area is so like full of atmosphere and is fun to explore. Every different side quest, every different person you talk to, literally every aspect of this game, and it's a little buggy in places and it doesn't like always work properly, but every aspect of this game is basically what you would want it to be if you had an infinite budget,
right?
Other than the technical aspects which are still being fixed. Like it's just really incredible how well written this game is. That's the main thing that it comes down to, is that every choice is a written choice. Like every positive aspect of this game is all in the writing.
Yes,
kind of. And I loved playing it too. Like as a tactical kind of RPG thing, it's really well made.
Yeah, I love that aspect of it, and I wasn't sure I was going to, and I generally, with like a Skyrim or something, the combat is like my fifth priority. It's more about exploration and atmosphere and getting immersed in the story. And this had all of that plus fun combat that was genuinely very deep.
Yeah,
I like that you can respec pretty much every character. But you can, put together, again, talking about customization and playstyle, you can make your party exactly what you want it to be and approach the game in the way that you want to approach it.
You can play through it as any of your party characters, not any actually, I don't think that's right, but as a lot of your party characters as the main character.
Yes. Yeah.
And there were times when I got annoyed because I accidentally talked to someone as Karlak, and I'm like, no, fuck off, Karlak. I'm trying to talk to this person. But then she would have her own fucking unique things to say there as though she were the main character, which is possible to do, the combat is just as creative and reactive and like living by your choices and dealing with them or whatever as the story feels, which is incredible because like you can do really bizarre things in the combat.
Yeah.
There's moments in this where like one of the characters can turn into an owl bear, which is like a huge, you can imagine what it is.
Well, it could be a little bear.
Doing this massive jump down these huge stairs to kill this enemy as a last-ditch thing. It looked fucking funny. It worked exactly as it should. And it was just so like... And every choice that you make like that, because they're all based on dice rolls, it does an incredible thing where either way the roll goes is fun. So it's not like a flip of a coin to see if you win or lose. It's a flip of a coin to see which path you take, which is satisfying in either direction because the combat feels good enough that you're adapting to the things that don't pan out in a fun way. Like, oh, shit, tripped on that hurdle. Here's a new challenge as a result. And then in the story, if someone gets pissed off at you because you missed a roll, okay, cool. It pans out. Something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it is unbelievable that they've managed to make it feel the whole way through like an exciting thing to see it happen either way. That's nuts. And it's the only game that's ever done it to that extent, honestly. Like it's a full-on all-timer because I can't think of a game, maybe like Disco Elysium.
Oh yeah,
something like that is like the sort of class that it's in of like really being about a choose your own adventure book that has a fucking million pages.
Right. And the story is an interesting one that you do want to see through to the end. And it's constantly giving you again, like it's about choice and whether you view the situation as like an ethical choice or based on your level of interest in any specific thing. It's like it's up to you how you approach it, and the game will continue to reward you taking initiative and wanting to explore further, whether it's like physical exploration or story exploration or experimenting in combat. It's totally. Always going to give you something.
It's like driving one of those weird like Jules Verne sort of imagined cars that's suddenly a submarine and it can fly and it's like the bed knobs and broomsticks bed where it's just it can be anything and it surprises you every time that it go gadgets into this new thing that actually fucking like works other than technically, which like is it's crazy that they're still working on that and fixing it and blah blah blah, but like there were some times when a bug would happen and I'd have to reload from somewhere or this and that. Like it's not something to necessarily brush over. It just didn't factor into my overall enjoyment of the game.
Yeah, it just didn't detract. Like it factors in, but it's like, sorry, 99.99% of this game was so good that...
And when it's breaking, it's more interesting than what a lot of games are doing when they're working. You know what? Like, not really, but like...
And you know it's breaking because it is so incredibly ambitious in what it is trying to do within the limits of like a computer.
Well, like Jedi Survivor I enjoyed and it detracted from my experience that it had the bugs that it did. This had worse bugs and it didn't detract because I was giving it so much rope because of how much I enjoyed it.
And I guess that means that other people may not feel the same way.
Absolutely, and that's fair enough. It's just physically there and it's getting fixed and patched and stuff all the time. They've already done so much work on it. I could not have enjoyed myself more with it. Literally every moment of that game was something interesting, surprising, well-written, enjoyable, unique and interesting. Fucking all these fucking words. You know.
Good. It was all
the writing's real good. It's interesting and interesting, so you can take it from me.
And like visually, you know, if you were playing on a PC at the highest settings, it looks absolutely incredible. Weirdly had better facial animations than Starfield, you know, like it's and this was Larian. It's like an independent studio, like it's not under Sony or Microsoft
this was like
or anything.
Kickstarted or whatever, and early access, and like
it is insane what they achieved. And again, as with the Zelda physics, like people came out and said this has ruined games development for the rest of us because it's impossible.
I've never seen game developers be like, don't expect this from us.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
nuts. But like, it just truly is like one of those, and I don't think they'll be able to do it again.
Yeah,
like it's just something where not only does it have to have the best people working on it and all that stuff, but it's lucky that it worked out.
Yes.
Not
Yeah.
to downplay their achievement or whatever. It's just it's lightning in a bottle type of shit. Like
Yeah.
it's nuts that it was able to happen.
And I guess it took a long time.
It did. It did. And it's been in early access since like late 2019, maybe 2020, something like that.
Yeah, and I played it then, and it is. I mean, it's better, but yeah, I don't know. It clearly took a lot of effort, and I guess they took a lot
And
of
it still
feedback
is.
from
They're
that
still-
that
yeah.
easy access process. But like, I mean, they're just geniuses.
It's nuts.
I don't get it.
It might be like factoring in how responsive it is to you, the best written game ever. Because
Yeah.
like, maybe some of it, like there's a few cheesy jokes and whatever, but like I have never seen something simulate the stuff that should be impossible to translate to games about like Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
Where that game is about people's imaginations.
Yeah, actually in the moment coming up with stuff.
Yeah.
And this is the closest to being as responsive as a real life human in the room.
Yeah,
It's
I think in terms
bizarre.
of the breadth of the writing, it's crazy. The story, it's not up there in terms of a human emotional story like a Red Dead 2 or something.
And
but
some patches of individual stories
for
are
sure.
great, but
again, it's the
it's the effect.
Yes.
It's the like achievement in writing.
yeah, right,
Like
right, yeah.
It's a game that people imagined existing.
Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
like now it basically does. It's
it does.
nuts.
So you agreed with the Game Awards.
Yeah, every element of them.
Yep.
I agree with every aspect of everything that whole thing is about, is what I'm saying by saying Baldur's Gate 3, my game of the year.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Should we go back over our top 10s real quick and just...
Yeah.
I'd love to then do some honorables.
Well, let's do those first, I guess. And
All
then-
right. So ones that we did not mention at all. I would like to shout out Like a Dragon Ishin. I went back to this about a month ago after having played it at launch, and it's a fantastic game. It's again another great remake.
Yep.
In a year of good remakes. Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe.
Yep.
That
This
is
is honourable for me.
100% of this game when it came out. Absolutely loved it. I've got Assassin's Creed Mirage, a return to form in my opinion. That form still is just like from 10 years ago though, so it's not.
Sure.
It's not quite. Another great remake that could have easily made my list. The Dead Space remake.
Oh, yeah.
That was early this year, but it was fucking sick. It just got shown up a little bit by like Resident Evil 4 for the horror action game.
I've got a couple.
Yeah,
if you
chuck
wanna-
'em in.
I didn't mention Modern Warfare 3 because Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 should not be on a Game of the Year list. However, it's the most fun I've had with a multiplayer game this year. So that's not nothing. The multiplayer aspect of that game, parts of it, they fucking annoyingly in a package that I don't like. I've talked about this, but anyway, it's
worth mentioning.
that's I've said what I said.
What about you, Tom?
Hogwarts Legacy.
Yep.
Also
Also on
it
mine.
certainly got the most number of hours racked up in my household.
Household game
so
of
that
the year.
counts
yeah.
for something.
Yep.
Yeah, just a well-designed game.
Yeah.
With a good, it's not doing anything too unique, but it is a satisfying version of that Harry Potter universe, and
That's it, right? I think for the people, again, talking about games that you imagine exist, like
Right.
a kid reading Harry Potter when it first came out, being like, what if I could run around and bloody shoot my wand off and do quests and make fucking potions? Like, it does all of that.
And great
Right.
combat, very like
Yes.
Spider-Man-esque feel to the combat.
Yeah.
Watermelon game.
Yeah, that's on my list. Which I looked up. It's like, it was made for a digital projector.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was like the little
Like the
shitty
built-in-
onboard game
Huh.
for the Aladdin X projector. And yeah, it was like I think that came out in 2021. The Western version came out obviously this year.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's like
it's bonkers.
You know, one of the most like Burger King training video. One of the best videos, films of the year.
Yeah, short film of the year. Yeah. And yeah, it was like inspired by a Chinese game. And yeah, Knox, you said like there have been other games like this before. Though it was very much like a reskinning of, but fucking
just a pop off, like a Flappy Bird, and
Yeah,
like this just
yeah, yeah.
happens
Yeah.
sometimes.
this. In terms of like, I guess technically games that came out this year would have probably got my most hours played.
Wow. Behind
Finity-
Marvel Snap though, surely.
Yeah,
still.
absolutely, yeah.
Affinity,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
great
Yep.
phone game.
Yep.
And Bayonetta Origins.
Oh.
Yeah,
Start of
that
the year.
was-
That
that
was.
was-
I really enjoyed that.
Yep, that's on my list. It's a game I probably could have played more of and would maybe have approached my top 10.
And then there's 3 here
Oh.
that if I had to put more time into them, I think would have been in my top 10. Baldur's Gate, Spider-Man, and Sea of Stars.
I'll
Yeah,
give a
nice.
shout out to Humanity. I mentioned it with the PSVR thing.
Yeah.
but
I was
like,
kind of surprised that wasn't on your list because you really liked that game.
it's great. It just
I just didn't
I
play
don't know.
enough of it. I was really enjoying
Right.
it, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think maybe the thing with puzzle games, and like I said this about Chance of Senna, which was an honorable thing, if they start retreading a little bit or feeling like they are, then you can lose interest. And I just don't think that quite had the level of like fresh that
Yeah.
some other puzzle games have had ever.
What about didn't Taylor? You only played the first Taylor's Principle.
I played the first one.
Yeah, because the second one apparently is also very good.
Yeah, and like I played Viewfinder this year, and I didn't love that myself.
Right,
but that
right.
was the other sort of puzzle game. I'll say one other quick one.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat 1 was all right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I want to mention SteamWorld Build. I fucking loved it.
I thought you might.
Yeah. It is, and it is exactly the style of Caesar, Pharaoh, Zeus, the Impressions city building games, which is great because I loved those games.
We talked about it 3 weeks ago and probably 2 weeks ago as well for a little bit.
Maybe. So that I really enjoyed. I didn't like, I've talked at length about my issues with it, but Persona 5 Tactica is a great game. It's not as good as Persona 5, but that's
Hey,
still
very
what
few
it
things
is.
are.
Yeah. Cocoon, I
Yeah.
enjoyed.
It was all right.
Yeah.
I found myself just like a little, I don't know, just like, oh yeah, cool, and then moved on.
Yeah, I loved it as I was
Exactly.
playing it, but
Yeah.
it didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just didn't enter my head.
That's
till
an all right
afterwards.
game. And Game Pass, can't go wrong with it.
Yeah.
Afternoon game.
And then I started playing Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty.
Mm-hmm. Great.
And it's fucking awesome.
It's really good because
it's
it's
my
like a
DLC of
DLC.
the year.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't really think about it for this because it is a DLC.
Totally. And I saw a lot of other outlets were including it as if it was a game.
It's well, and like, you know,
But it's
remakes
not.
and shit can be on there, and Cyberpunk 2077 got a big upgrade, which is like the
Yeah.
remake. I don't know, man. It's good though.
Yeah, it's great.
It's really good.
It's really
Idris
fun to get back
Elba
in there.
is good in it.
Yeah, and so is the Netrunner lady. That
Oh,
you,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
And the world, the area of the city,
Dogtown.
Dogtown. Yeah, good year for games,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Should we rehash our
Yes.
top 10s?
Yeah, let's recap them. I'll just remind before we go as well. Vote for your game of the year. There'll be a
Yes.
link, like I said earlier in the show notes.
Yeah.
For a little form we got going. Listener, please use me. The listener game of the year, we'll be reading them out when we're back in the new year. So please,
we're back
please
in the
do.
room.
Because next week it'll be a 2024 preview, baby.
Yes. Okay, my number 10, Gunbrella. Number 9, Super Mario RPG. Number 8, Metroid Prime Remastered. Number 7, Fire Emblem Engage. Number 6, Dredge. Number 5, Pizza Tower. Number 4, Resident Evil 4. Number 3, Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Number 2, Pikmin 4. Number 1, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Do you reckon Tommy owns a Switch?
Yeah.
Shut up, cunt.
How many though?
Not enough.
My list.
Great list.
2 at times of
Yeah.
recording.
Great list.
Number 10, Alan Wake 2. Number 9, Atomic Heart. Number 8, Starfield. Number 7, Dredge. Number 6, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Number 5, Lies of P. Number 4, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Number 3, Resident Evil 4. Number 2, Baldur's Gate 3. Number 1, Armored Core 6. Fires of Rubicon.
Good list.
Good list.
You can tell there are lists too.
Yeah.
Bit of fun.
Yeah.
Number 10 for me, Spider-Man 2. Number 9, Dredge. Number 8, Armored Core 6. Fires of Rubicon. Thank you. Number 7, Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Number 6, Lies of P. Number 5, Resident Evil 4 Remake. Number 4, Alan Wake 2. Number 3, Pikmin 4. Number 2, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Number 1, and one of my top 5 games of all time, probably,
Yep.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Fuck yeah.
Those are some lists.
Another great list, yeah.
It's been a good year.
Man, when we get to episode 700 and we redo our all-time games of all time,
And Tommy's holding my skull going like, bang, 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 bang.
I feel like, at least maybe, a couple of those games will be appearing in my all-timers.
Yeah.
It's hell of a year.
Baldur's Gate 3 is 100% in there, which it's the first year in a while where, I guess not actually. I was going to say where I've just certainly had a fresh top 5.
Right,
but
right.
Maybe Red Dead 2, maybe,
I definitely think Red Dead 2. Yeah.
I don't know.
Elden Ring?
There's a lot
Elden,
of good games.
yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'm
Yeah.
talking
It
shit.
happens every year.
Why'd I
every
talk
year.
shit at the end of the podcast?
God, you've really made yourself sound like a right fool.
Edit that out, me. Remember.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for your support over the year.
Yeah.
For recommending games to us. With a
Yes.
few of these games we've ended up liking have been from listeners mentioning them to us.
Totally. And thank you for contributing when we put the call out for reviews for the big games that we talk about as well. It's always good to have a broader spectrum of opinion to discuss.
Yeah, that's very sick. Thanks to everyone for listening for
Yeah.
the year, to our patrons of Filthy Casuals, the Patreon.
It's been a long day.
Filthy Casuals, the Patreon,
Yeah.
Fires of Rubicon.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, thank you for listening. What a great year. Thank
Yeah.
you to you boys for being
Oh,
so
thank
much
you.
fun to
Thank
talk
you,
about.
fellas.
Tommy.
A wonderful
Thank
art
you, Ben.
form.
Thank you,
And
Adam. You're welcome, Adam.
He's lost it.
we will see you next week for our
Hey.
look ahead at what's coming up in
We'll see you next year.
2024. We'll see you Jesus Christ.
The funniest guy in the office.
Starts earlier every year.
Yeah.
Knockoffs.
Someone at Coles just said to me, see you next year, and it's only the middle of November. It happens earlier every year.
They're
Thanks.
putting up the see you next year tree again. It's too early.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time, as we say here at the end, on every year on Filthy Casuals.
See you next year. My joke I came up with just then.